Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Mighty Model Shop Creations. Today, we're trying something different and featuring a diorama that was made by my dad. Let's get straight into it. Alright, so Dad, how long did it take you to build this thing?
Well, I started it in 1999, and I just finished it about a month ago. But that wasn't continuous building. That was, like most of my projects, and probably everybody else's. It spent the majority of its life half complete, or three quarters, or a quarter, or all of the above, in a box for at least 6 months, a couple years at a time. Um, there was a small hiccup, a factor that led to its boxing, and that was, it ran into an unfortunate incident that involved gravity and several feet. And given that this is made from Hydrocal, which is a glorified plaster essentially, it promptly shattered into many, many pieces. After you spend, you know, lots of hours, detailing and painting and whatever, to see it in pieces is a little deflating, to say the least, right? So, it ended up in a box, at that point. And then, I brought it back out a few years later and at least pieced it back together so it was complete. And then it sat for more time because, I was reliving the trauma of its initial destruction. And then after that, I brought it out again. I was like, okay, you know what? Like, let's make this work. I have a lot of time and stuff into this, so let's finish it up. So that's when um, I finally decided on the base, which is a 1/16 scale or 1/18 scale um, model kit display
That one up
box.
there, yep.
Anyway, so I used that one because I knew I was gonna put lighting in here. So I wanted somewhere to hide the switches and or a power supply or something. And the bottom is hollow, so that's why I kind of decided on that. And also the glass, right? So you can put glass on top of it and protect it from dust and whatever, right? So that's how I decided on the base. And then it just kind of went from there, right? So you start with building placement. So it kind of just barely fits on there, and I epoxied it down. And in the interior, there's a whole bunch of space in the interior. You can see in here. So that's where I hid all the lighting. So this is Woodland Scenics. I think it's called Plug and Play. Just a really nice system. It costs a bit of money or whatever, but it just makes things really simple and easy. And you can dim and make the lights brighter. So, for example, these are just printouts that I took from the internet of different shop storefronts, and just bent them in place. That way, when you're looking in through the windows, it just gives you that little bit more of realism, like there's actually shelves and stuff in there, right? And like I said, you can dim them down and make them brighter based on the amount of detail you want to see, or like, for example, Archie's place, right? It's a bar, so those won't be like super, super bright, and so I use the warmer colors for that one, and dim it down. Anyways, but probably my most favorite electrical part of this would be the Miller's Engineering sign. I think that, any action that you can take, like, it just gives you, like, that much more realism. Not only is it a light, but it's also, active. And I'm not sponsored or whatever, I mean, obviously. But they have really cool signs. They have rooftop signs that do like 30 different flashing features and whatever. They're really, I don't know, they're just really cool. But yeah, so that's it. So I just, stuck it down, figured out orientation and that sort of stuff. Actually poured the sidewalks myself and scribed them with like a dental pick, right? Those are also available from Downtown Deco. That's what kit this is, actually. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before. It's a Downtown Deco kit. It's made from Hydrocal, which is like a glorified plaster, right? So you have to kind of be careful when you're painting this too. It doesn't react like plastic. It's very porous, right? So it sucks in the paint. anyway, so those are all things that I learned. I actually, I had, this is an HO scale um, building and diorama. Everything in here is meant for like model trains. And I'm new to the model train world. I've never, I'm just like a plastic model car guy, right? But I was in, my local hobby shop, brick and mortar shop, and there was a consignment area or something, right? And I'm like, I ran across this box. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I've always been into urban decay and, yeah, like Detroit, like, a lot of American cities, right? Where it's a little bit edgy and gritty, right? Like it's real life. So, anyways, that's what drew me to that. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Like, let me just pick it up, right? I've never heard of like, I wasn't into trains. I wasn't into scale buildings, and it was just kind of an interesting. And one thing led to another. I was in the shop and caught my eye, picked it up, and started building it. And man, it's a lot more fun than I thought. Being a small scale, you can build like, these are like 4 different buildings, 5 if you include the chop suey one. And you can fit it in a display case, which is great, right? Here is the downtown Deco chop suey takeout restaurant that I included in it. And that was an afterthought too, because it was a bit offside and whatever. So I bought that actually from the same place. I went back and picked up another one. They had the second one there. And yeah, it just works itself out. And I think actually taking a pause, maybe not that long, certainly a 4-year pause is too long, but to get your creative juices kind of, you gotta let it mellow, right? And figure out, what building you want to do and what scene you want. Or originally I was going to do like a police scene where they are arresting somebody. I have actually a police car that I bought for that purpose, but then I thought, it doesn't really, it wasn't really hitting like it was supposed to, right? And I've always had a thing for these Lincoln cars. Just, they're absolute land yachts. And just, I don't know. Anyway, so I knew I wanted to include that too, right? And of course, without the advent of GPS back in those days, this poor fellow, I guess, became lost in the neighborhood here and sought the assistance of that lovely woman and asked her for directions. And yeah, so that's basically the story of this thing.
What's your favorite part of detailing this kit? Like,
I think the alleyway, because it's just gritty. I spend a lot of time. I have books on urban decay, American ruins, and some really cool YouTube videos now of like, video footage of people driving around in Detroit and stuff like back in the day. And I was actually really surprised about the amount of, rubbish and cardboard and stuff just strewn about in the streets. It actually kind of inspired me to go like more, put more junk and rubbish in mine. I didn't think that was like actually realistic, but as it turns out, it kind of is.
what was your least favorite part of this kit?
Artist block. When you get to a point and you're setting up stuff, I have a terrible, terrible tendency to like stage my models. So I'd position, the figures, and I'd put this here and put this there, and then I'd spend like about 40 minutes like listening to music and whatever, just kind of thinking about where I wanted this to go, and maybe imagining where the best placement for these people, and maybe what their stories are. Like, how did this, the conversation between the two guys, in front of the store, right? Like, what's their deal? Just two guys that meet in the street, or it's there's tons of, that's the thing, man. You gotta have like stories, right? And you can't have just one story. You have to have like 2 or 3 different stories, and there's all these characters like wandering around in your little world. Like, well, actually, check out this Easter egg, right? Like, at the very end, this actually came with the kit, right? Bukowski Liquors, right? That's Charles Bukowski, the I was going to say famous, but probably infamous, poet and story writer back in the day. And that his poetry and stuff kind of inspired the grit that I hope this, that I hope this projects.
Anything else you want to say, or?
Yeah, you know what? Like, I really, as a plastic model car guy, this was a lot of fun. I was surprised at how much fun it is. In fact, I invested in another Hydrocal kit from downtown Deco. This one is Adams Avenue Part 5. It's a bigger kit, so I can't just stick this in like a little display case. I'm gonna have to rethink that, and I'm gonna also rethink the whole base of it and whatever. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing this kit, right? Because it has fire escapes, in the front. It has an alleyway again, which is I can include the grit and grime that I like. I'm gonna try and replicate that little police scene in the front where they're kind of arresting somebody. I actually have like a really cool HO scale police car that I'm gonna use, and some 3D printed stuff from a local guy in Toronto actually. I can't remember his name, but we'll include that later. But Easter eggs, I really want to put some Easter eggs in this. I think that's a lot of fun. Secret things that maybe the casual viewer or your neighbor when he comes over probably won't pick up on, but it's something that right? Even in this, right, like the rooftops, I'm going to have, although it's gritty and grungy and kind of 70s and run down and whatever, I'm going to have like a secret oasis garden, like on the rooftop, right? Where, this lady has like maybe flowers.
All right, so I think we're going to call this interview done for now. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.